Alright guys, welcome back to the next episode of Director's Share. Today we're looking at the legendary world of Joe Dante. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the next episode of Director's Share, talk about director, talking about Joe Dante. Before I do it, don't forget to subscribe and comment on Bell with Aaron. So I'm going to go through his movies and get to our full answer start. So in 1976 we had Hollywood Boulevard, which was a satirical exploitation film. This was Joe Dante's first movie. It stars Candace Rawson, Mary Voronov, Rita George, Jeffrey Kramer, Dick Miller, Paul Bartle, and Jonathan Kaplan. It made $1,054,000 budget. I've not seen this movie. I don't know if it's good or not. So it's Hollywood Boulevard. Then in 1978 we had Piranha, which was a comedy horror film. It starred Bradford Dillman, Heather Menzies, Kevin McCarthy, Keenan Wynn, Barbara Steele, Dick Miller, Belinda Belansky. Made $2.9. It made $60 million on $600,000 budget. So this movie, it was the first installment of a series of low budget movies inspired by Jaws. There was a sequel that was directed by James Cameron. There were two remakes. There was one in 1995 and another in 2010, which spawned its own sequel in 2012. It received mixed reviews, so that's Piranha. And then in 1981 we had The Howling. This was a horror film. It was based on a novel of the same name by Gary Bradner. It starred Dee Wallace, Patrick McNee, Dennis Dugan, Christopher Stone, Belinda Belansky, Kevin McCarthy, John Carradine, Simon Slim Pickens, and Elizabeth Brooks. It made $17.9 million, $1.5 million budget. It received positive reviews of praise for the makeup and visual effects by Robin Botten. There's a remake in development of Andy Muschietti set to direct. This movie's okay. I like this movie, so that's The Howling. So in 1983 we had Twilight Zone the movie, which was a science fiction anthology film. It was based on Ross Sellers' 1959 to 1964 television series of the same name. It starred Dan Aykroyd, Albert Brooks, Scatman Crothers, John Lithgow, Vic Morrow, and Kathleen Quinlan. It made $42 million on $10 million budget. This was directed by John Landis, Steven Spielberg, Joe Dante, and George Miller. They each had a segment. This movie was infamous due to it received mixed reviews. First directed at Dante and Miller's segments because of the segments by Landis and Spielberg. It was notorious because of the helicopter crash, which I'll talk to that when we get to John Landis. And this movie's okay. There's twice in the movie. In 1984, we had horror film. We had Gremlins, which was a horror film. It starred Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, Hoyt Axton, Francis Lee McCain, and Polly Holiday. It made $212.9 million, $11 million budget. It was heavily criticized for some of its more violent scenes. In response to this and to similar complaints by Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, Spielberg suggested a motion picture of America alter its rating system, which it did within 2 months of the film's release, creating a new PG-13 rating. And so this movie's good. So is Gremlins. Then 1985 we had Explorers, which is a science fantasy film. It was Ethan Hawke, River Phoenix, and Jason Preston. It made $9.9 million, $20 to $25 million budget. Dante revealed that studio demanded that he stop editing and rush for a July release, where it was overshadowed by that Live Aid concert, which was held one day after the film's release, and stiff competition from Back to the Future. It was a box office failure upon its release. but it's attracted a cult following with its VHS release. This movie's good, so that's Explorers. Um, then in 1987 we had Inner Space, which was a science fiction comedy film. It was inspired by 1966 science fiction film Fantastic Voyage. Starred Dennis Quaid, Martin Short, Meg Ryan, and Kevin McCarthy. It made $42 million on $27 million budget. And yeah, so this movie's good. And then also in 1987 we had Amazon Woman on the Moon, which was such a really cool science fiction film that parodies the experience of watching no budget films on late night television. And so yes, it starred Michelle Pfeiffer, Rosanna Arquette, Kelly Preston, Carrie Fisher, Sybil Danning, Steve Allen, and yeah, it made 548,000, and and yeah, so this is directed by Joe Dante, Carl Goodtime, Peter Horton, John Landis, and Robert K. Wise. So yeah, and then in 1989 we had The Burbs, which was a black comedy film. It starred Tom Hanks, Bruce Dern, Carrie Fisher, Rick DeComen, and Corey Feldman. It made $49.1 million, $18 million budget. And yeah, it's now regarded as a cult classic. So in 1990 we had Gremlins 2: The New Batch, which was a black comedy film, horror film. It stars Zach Gallagher, Phoebe Cates, John Glover, Robert J. Prosky, Robert and Ricardo, Christopher Lee. It made $41.5 million at $50 million budget. It received mixed reviews. It has since developed a cult following. This movie's good. It's not as good as the first one, so it's Gremlins 2: A New Batch. Then in 1993 we had Matinee, which was a comedy film. It starred John Goodman, Kathy Moriarty, Simon Fenton, Omri Katz, Kelly Martin, Lisa Jacob, and it made $9.5 million, $30 million budget. So yeah, this movie's okay. So that's Matinee, and then in 1998 we had Small Soldiers, which was an action comedy film. It starred Kirsten Dunst, Gregory Smith, Jay Moore, Phil Hartman, Kevin Dunn, Dennis Leary, Frank Langella, and Tommy Lee Jones. Made $8.75 million, $40 million budget. It received mixed reviews. And it marks the last on-screen appearance of Phil Hartman, who was murdered 2 months before the film's American release, and is dedicated in his memory. It's also the final film, Rolf Clint Walker. And yeah, there was going to be a remake, but it got cancelled because of the merger with Disney and Fox. So yeah, this is a good movie. Then 2003 we had Looney Tunes Back in Action, which was a live-action animated comedy film. It's the second theatrical feature film in Looney Tunes franchise, and it starred Brendan Fraser, Jenna Elfman, Steve Martin, Timothy Dalton, Joan Cusack, Heather Locklear. It made $16.5 million on an $80 million budget. It received mixed positive reviews from critics who consider it an improvement of Space Jam and praise animation and humor because of screenplay. It was a box office bomb, and Warner Bros. Developed a franchise around the film. Sony cancelled several planned related projects, including new theatrical short films. It was the final short film to be released by Warner Bros. Feature Animation, the last theatrical feature until Space Jam: A New Legacy. So I actually like this movie, so Looney Tunes Back in Action. And then in 2006 we had Trout Ashes, which is a horror anthology film. It was directed by Sean S. Cunningham, Joe Dante, Mont Hellman, Ken Russell, and John Gator. I've not seen this movie, so. And then in 2009 we had The Hole, which was a 3D dark fantasy horror film. It starred Chris Mesoglia, Haley Bennett, Nathan Gamble, Bruce Dern, and Terry Polo. It made $10.5 million, $12 million budget. So in 2014, we had Bernie X, which was a zombie comedy film. It starred Anton Yelchin, Ashley Greene, Alexander Dario, and Oliver Cooper. It made 604,000. And then finally, in 2008, we had Nightmare Cinema, which is a horror anthology film with Alexandra Burgess, Dante McGarris, Jenna Tamara, and David Slade made. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I've not seen the sequel, so that's pretty much Joe Dante. I don't think he's made a bad film. I like all of his movies. So that's Legendary World of Joe Dante. Guys, and watch my videos. My next one. Bye.